Hiker Jay here. This week I'm reviewing another portable power system by Bluetti. This is just coming out in July of 2021. And I'm pretty excited because it has a completely different application than the Bluetti that I reviewed. That's the 500 watt here that I reviewed with the solar panels and everything. If you haven't checked that video out, I'll put a link up here so you can check it out. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the features of the EB55, how it works in application of charging and all the different things that I tested it on, and then my final thoughts on how this really applies to what I think is a real disaster situation, power outage, at home. You have 4 ports for AC power, regular plugs. This is huge when it comes to a system that's going to be there for emergencies, but also can be used when you're camping too. So if this is the first time to my channel, if you could hit subscribe and like, that would be awesome. Really helps my channel grow and really appreciate it. And as always, all the products that I'll be talking about will be down in the description down below, so you can check them out anytime you want. All right, so now let's get into the build and construction and then talk about the features. So the build and construction is amazing. Now this is a lot heavier than the other unit that I reviewed, but it's coming in at 537 watts. So that's pretty cool. A little bit more stored power in here. It has some systems in here to charge faster, which we'll talk about the charging block in a minute. So it just has a couple more features in here to make it more robust. So let's do a quick walk around. On the top here, you have that cell phone charging station where you can just sit it on here and it charges. Love that with my phone. When this is sitting out in the garage and I've been testing it, I just leave my phone on there charging. That's pretty cool. Has a single handle here, which is pretty nice, and it goes completely flush and hidden away. On each side, there are fans on here. This does have an excellent fan system for cooling. When it gets somewhere above 50, so I'd find it between 50, pulling 50 to 75 watts, these fans will turn on, and they can be a little bit noisy. Not too bad though. I don't think they're super loud. They never bothered me, but just know that there will be a fan noise once you start pulling more than one item from here. If you're pulling a lot of AC, that's not too bad. When you get into DC, you're going to be pulling a lot more watts. We'll talk about that in just a second. Now, the back here, we've got the standard flashlight. So if you did need a light, you could have this sitting on the kitchen table, and you just kind of hold it down. It turns on, hold it down again, and it goes brighter. And then if you really need it for an emergency situation, hold it down and it'll flash for an emergency situation, and then just hold it down again to turn it off. So that's pretty cool. One thing I'd love to see Yeti do is have this pull out and have it be separate so you could walk around with it, because it's pretty heavy to use. But honestly, in a power outage situation, having this light that will last for like ever is pretty sweet. All right, now to the front, the brains of the whole system, right? This is what you really want to know about. So first off, input, how you power it up. You can plug it in with the battery charger itself right here, which I'll talk about in a minute. This charges super fast. The whole point of this is to get a charge on here and have it in an emergency situation. So even the charger itself has a fan in it. And then you have the XT60s right here. I think that's what they call them. These little yellow ones that plug in. And that is your car charger or solar charger that can charge with that system. So that's kind of nice that they have those plugs. And both these came along with it, which is really great, of course, along with the charging block too. Moving ourselves down here, we've got kind of our USB setup. You've got one USB-C right here, and then 4 USBs that are 5 volts and 3 amps. Now, see how the kind of squares around here? Know that you have to turn them on, each section on, to send power out from them. Now, moving across, you have 4 ports for AC power, regular plugs. This is huge when it comes to a system that's going to be there for emergencies or prepping and that type of thing, because you're not always going to have USB options. You're going to have lamps around the house. You're going to have small refrigerators, things you want to plug in to use. You could even use a small blender, because this does have a watt startup of 700, which is pretty sweet. Now, you can't do massive things like an air conditioner on this, but you could do a lot of the things plug in here, and you'll see when I plug my computer in, it ramps up right away, and then it brings it back down. So startup is something that you really want to think about when you're plugging things in. Once you start getting a bunch of things plugged in, you don't want it to ramp too high above 700. So you don't want it to ramp up so high that it shuts the system down. Then moving up into this section, you've got your 12 volt section, right? Your regular cigarette lighter right here, and that comes along, and you have something like that that plugs into there. I have a little heated blanket that I use when I'm camping that I plug into something like that, and then a couple other 12 volt options here too, pin type that you can plug in there. Again, you'd have to turn it on with the switch to make it turn on. All right, now the display. I really like Bluetti's displays. I think they're really easy to read. You've got your input and your output watts. You've got your power bank by percentage of how much you actually have in there. You've got some other options for like overheating and the temperature type controls that'll tell you if it's overheating. So I really do like their screen. It's real simple, really easy to use. Let me plug a couple things in there and show you what happens when I do that. Now here, when I plug in the power unit, sorry, the fan is actually on it, but that's when you'll be able to see how many input watts are going into it. Right now, we've got 191 input watts going on. Let me talk about this power system right now. You can probably hear the fan, sorry about the noise, but what it is it's got a fan running straight through the whole system to cool it. This thing supercharges, charges like super fast. I have not really tested it fully. I've certainly done solar charging, and with this unit, they say that you can do the both together and actually get this charged in 2 hours. I would say I would use this unit to plug it into the wall and have it charged in 4 hours for sure. I'm not really comfortable plugging two power systems in, but it does say that they can be sistered and put in like that, which is kind of wild and crazy. So I'm going to unplug this so that we can get this fan turned off of here. Now I'm going to take you over to my desk. I'm going to plug in my whole desk system and we'll talk about how much power that's drawing from it. So now I've got the computer plugged in. I plugged the monitor in because it shut it off when I was doing that. This is the light for the camera. There you go. We're back on. So right now I've got the computer going, which is a gaming computer, has a fan going, have the monitor going, and also have the lights. I'm going to put my phone on top here. Two things you have to remember is, yes, you have to have your light on for all your AC plug-in type systems, but for your 12 volt, or I mean your DC over here, I need to have that on to be charging on the top, which it is charging now on my phone by just sitting it up there. Right now we are pulling 160 watts of power. Now that's really not bad at all. We have 80% left. Just love this screen. It really helps you know where you're at on things. One thing I will say with the phone up here, it only pulls probably 4 watts. You could charge your phone so many times in a situation where you have a power outage. One thing I will say that this will overload. Obviously I don't have a ton here. I only have 50 watts being pulled out. I really like the screen. I wish it would stay on a little bit longer, but you just have to tap it like that and it'll turn back on and you can kind of see it. I know why it turns off because it's saving power, but I kind of like to see where I'm sitting at times. Now I did use this sitting in my office here like this, cranking away for about 5-6 hours with the computer and everything, and it drew it down about 40%. So that's hardcore going at it. What I love about this is just having all these DC or AC plugs here, because the main thing is like being able to use this when have a power outage, and maybe it's a tornado, or even there's a ton of brownouts right now where your community gets shut off for a certain amount of time. You can go ahead and plug your whole computer system in, your Wi-Fi, and still function, which is pretty great. Or have lights at night by plugging lamps in, because not everything is going USB, or USB-C. So when you're thinking about having a power system around the house, this one's perfect for it. Being able to just throw your phone up there, keep that charged in an emergency. This is just a great power system for a prepper or somebody who's worried about emergency power at home. This is a really good one. If you do that though, make sure that you use it every 6 months, drain it down, and then recharge it. You don't want to just have this in a cellar somewhere and hope that it's going to charge it up and it's going to be great in 5 years from now. It's something that you do want to pull out, take camping, burn it down, use it, take it on a trip, whatever it might be. One last thing, I did use the Bluetti 200 watt solar panels to charge this and play around with it. Now I didn't have a ton of sun on that day, so the volts and the wattage are always different on a solar panel. So they might throw in 12 volts or something like that. Now this system right here, it says that it's up to 25 volts. Now that's pretty important because it's 12 to 25 volts. So if the solar panel's pushing in 40 volts or something lower, it's not going to take the charge. Whereas the other unit that I did, the 500 unit, that one has a wider variety of solar panels that can be used for it, because I think it went from like 12 volts to like 40 volts. So I could get a lot of other solar panels to work with this one. They work with this and it's fine, and they've got the ports for it and everything. Just know that you have to get the right solar panel for it. I would certainly get a Bluetti with it. I'll put some links down below there because I know that one worked. I put a Bose RV one in there, but it didn't quite have the right parameters, so it wouldn't charge it. One time I had it at lower light in the Bose and it worked, so it just brought the voltage down, but that one's cranking out a ton of voltage. So something to think about if you're thinking about going solar. Make sure that you get a Blue Yeti system, solar system with this one too, because it'll be a lot more compatible. But just the option of being able to plug in home appliances is a big one if you're thinking about having one for a real disaster or just being prepared or using for brownouts or whatever. Let me know in the comments, is this a system that you think would work good for a disaster or emergency type situation? Till next time, just remember, life's a hike, so hike happy. Make sure you're always prepared. Have a good power system on hand. Never know when you're going to need it. I love how this just charges my phone. I just lay it down and it charges. Pretty sweet.